Okay, so hello everybody. Let me start. I'm sorry for this technical issue. It's all new for us, this the new webinar systems, although probably most of us have already taken part in a lot of such webinars. It's always something new, always a little bit experimental. So I'm very sorry for that. We are still waiting for my colleague that, oh, here I see you. Hi, Andrzej. Andrzej,
Hello.
can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you. Sorry for the fact that I'm late, but there were some technical problems. But I'm in finally.
Okay, so hello again, everybody. Hello, Andrzej. My name is Aleksander Rzepecki. I am electric vehicles responsible manager at Mercedes-Benz Central Europe. With me, we have Andrzej Poplawski, who is the head of innogy, the biggest Polish eMobility, pure eMobility car sharing service. Just a brief information about organization of our presentation. Firstly, I would like to give you an overview of what is happening in Poland and in Central Europe in the area of eMobility. What are the possibilities for investments? Then I would like to ask Andrzej also to present a little bit more his project, his innogy car sharing service. And we'll make a little bit maybe a deeper dive into that. And afterwards, I would love to have a short discussion, short panel with him. Meanwhile, we see what you are writing here. If you have any questions, we will be very happy to answer. We will be also available after our presentation. So I will allow myself to start. So again, my name is Aleksander Rzepecki, and except for Mercedes-Benz, I am also representing the Polish Chamber of Commerce, which is where I am the vice president of eMobility Committee. And the presentation you see is designed as the chamber presentation, because I would like not to limit myself on Mercedes-Benz eMobility. I would like to go a little bit further. Firstly, maybe to present the organizations I am coming from. The Krajowa Izba Gospodarcza, the National Chamber of Commerce, is the biggest Polish industrial organization. It's like a chamber of chambers. It has in it over 160 other organizations, national chambers, industrial chambers. And within that, we also have the eMobility Committee, which is a very new organizational unit where we are, among others, concentrating on networking, on finding co-partners for people who want to invest and develop eMobility in Poland. And I'm talking here not only about investors, but also about companies, about universities and R&D units, which might be interested to come to Poland, or from Poland to expand outside from Poland, and of course general eMobility promotion. But except for that, I represent Mercedes-Benz, which I believe does not have to be well described anymore. You probably know all the brand, but I would like to go straight and directly to the part that is interesting for us today, the electric part. So Daimler has adopted already 4 years ago, so-called CASE strategy, where CASE stands for an acronym of Connected, Autonomous, Shared, and Electric. These 4 words describe how our products are more and more looking like. How will they look like in the future? So the cars will be basically connected, autonomous, shared, and this part will be probably developed more by Andrzej, and of course electric. What is more, ambition of Mercedes-Benz is to create a CO2 neutral fleet up until 2039, which means that within less than 3 production cycles of car, we will produce only cars that are not emitting any CO2, which does not mean they have to be pure electric. Maybe they will be hydrogen, maybe some kind of other technology, but definitely not the ones with combustion engine. What is more, already until 2030, we are planning to offer the fleet that, I mean, we want ourselves to be electrified, meaning pure electric or hybrid electric, in 50%. So every second Mercedes-Benz car that we sell will be electrified. But coming from the small perspective of a big, but after all, just one single organization to the big global point of view, here you have some statistics about where we have been, where we are, and where we are heading. So obviously the numbers are showing that e-mobility is absolutely the biggest and strongest trend in automotive industry. It's rising fast, not only in United States, but also in European Union, and of course in China, who is at the point leader of e-mobility development. What is interesting in European Union is that we are ahead from other markets when it comes to the shares of PHEVs, meaning plug-in hybrids, so combustion engine cars, but with also electric engine, electric battery, and possibility to either drive diesel or gasoline, and or with electric power. What is interesting, what has been interesting in the last months in Europe was that the September 2020 was the first ever month when the number of electrified cars with electric engines surpassed the number of diesel cars registered in Europe, which means that there were more electrified cars than diesel cars registered in that single month. Both of them were more or less 25%. However, I mean, this is still, of course, not maybe significantly higher, but nevertheless, it shows the trend. I have to come here about, however, to the fact that I'm talking here not only about plug-in hybrid cars, I mean about all hybrid and electric cars, meaning also mild hybrids. So this does not mean that 25% of new cars in Europe in September were cars that are actually going electric all the time, but these are already cars that have electric engines and can drive also electric. Why is this trend so strong in Europe? Not only in Europe, but especially in Europe. Well, the thing is that we are having some CO2 targets set by the European Commission, which say that until the end, since the next year, or until end of this year, the car manufacturers should not produce cars that on average emit 95 grams per kilometer. There is a special algorithm to calculate it, but to make it simple, we take all the cars produced by a car manufacturer, we check what is their average official technical emission of CO2, and then we calculate average. How much CO2 does an average car of one single car producer make every kilometer? This shows us that in order to meet this 95 grams per kilometer target, an average car has to consume not more than 4.1 liters of gasoline or per 100 kilometers, or 3.6 diesel. This is, of course, nearly impossible in a normal combustion engine car. That's why the car manufacturers have to compensate their high emission combustion engine fleet with low emission electric cars or plug-in hybrids. And that is also why the whole industry has suddenly turned into electric vehicles. Not only because we believe in electric power, of course we do. We all do believe that this is the future of mobility, also because the fossil fuels will end one day. On the other hand, electric power can be already renewable, which means that we can use it forever. Even this single argument makes sense to resign totally from fossil fuels and turn into electric power. However, also the penalties, of course, play a strong role, which means that for every gram we go above this 95 grams per kilometer borderline, for every additional gram car manufacturer will have to pay. And this is why it's so important to introduce electric fleets as fast as possible. That's also why many new brands, electric vehicles brands, have appeared. Some of them are lines or sub-brands of the existing ones. For example, the EQ, which is the Mercedes-Benz electric brand, but also e-tron offered by Audi, the i offered by BMW, which is also used by innogy. But also there are a couple of new ones. Of course, Tesla is the obvious one, totally new brand, only electric, and the most famous one in the world. But you can also see a couple of other brands here in my presentation, including, for example, Rivian, which, by the way, just a couple days revealed their first prices of the cars, but also Izera or Izera, which is supposed to be the new Polish electric brand. And what is interesting about the Polish car manufacturers is that Poland, since a couple years or even a dozen years, has not produced its own cars, not electric, but no car. I mean, we have a couple of car factories, including also Mercedes-Benz engines car factory, but we do not have our own Polish brand. And that's why there is a plan to start up a new brand called Izera. This is supposed to be purely electric brand with 5 models, with a range of 5 models at the beginning. The car is supposed to run up to 400 kilometers with a single charging. It is supposed to have 8 seconds acceleration until 60 kilometers per hour. With a reasonable 40 up to 60 kilowatt hours capacity. And the start of production is planned in 2023. What is interesting from the point of view of this conference is that this project is still developing. They are still looking for the investors, they are still looking for the partners, for suppliers, for somebody who will sell their cars, for services, meaning car workshops who will repair the cars, but also for external services suppliers, because somebody will have to offer charging devices for Izera customers. Somebody will have to install them, etc., etc. So this is like a very big topic in Poland. It's partly funded by the government, but I would see private equity here also as a very good perspective for development of this project. And we, as Polish National Chamber, we are also in contact with Izera, helping them get the partners they need. When we talk about electric vehicles, it's very important to talk also about charging. So most of the studies shows that absolutely most of charging is done at home or at work. However, there is always this 15% component of charging at public stations, which we have to do because if we want to leave our city and go a little bit farther than this 400, 500, 600 kilometers, which is perhaps in Europe quite a lot. I know that in the United States the distances are a bit bigger, so that's why public charging infrastructure is also extremely important. And how does it look like in Europe? Well, basically this big graph you see is a little bit outdated. It's not the newest one. However, the colors did not change. Eastern Europe is underdeveloped when it comes to public charging infrastructure. And here also both investors are needed, also the companies that will develop this infrastructure are needed, the integrators of various charging points, and I will come back to that later because actually innogy and E.ON, the home organization of Andrzej Poplawski's project, is also the part of is a unit that is developing this infrastructure. But this is a fact. Eastern Europe is underdeveloped when it comes to public infrastructure. However, we have some bright stars. A good example here is the Greenway, for example, the biggest chain of public charging in Poland and Slovakia. Actually, Bratislava is the headquarters of this company, and it shows that also local initiatives have some potential. But as I said, public charging is only about 15% of whole charging. When we talk about charging at home or at work or at fleet, especially if we talk about fleet customers, we also need more suppliers. We need more initiatives, projects that will allow our customers to charge their cars comfortably. We are selling fleets, okay, but then they need support. I mean, we as Mercedes sell a fleet of electric cars, but they need a good. The customer needs a good infrastructure to charge these cars. Very often there is a problem with grid. They don't have enough grid, enough power. They do not have enough charging devices. That's why then they need to somehow manage this whole charging system, also to lower the energy consumption, especially during the peak peak time, and then to charge maybe more in the night, which of course can be also steered with intelligent energy management system. But it is not such simple, and for that we need also partners. Then there is another very big topic of the batteries. So here you can see how does the battery from Mercedes-Benz EQC, our first pure electric SUV car, look like. You can see the basic dimensions and the weight. It's pretty heavy. It's only almost 700 kilograms, almost 1,500 pounds. But it also has inside a lot of pretty expensive minerals such as graphite, cobalt, lithium, magnesium, which can be used after the battery is old or damaged. And that's why I here also wanted to tell you a little bit about the life cycle of the battery, because this is also a very big investment, but also business development opportunity. As we have three basic things, what can happen with the battery after it's damaged or it loses its capacity in some way. So firstly, of course, it can be repaired by the original manufacturer, or it can be regenerated. And this part is probably reserved for the original manufacturers of the cars. However, if the battery cannot be repaired, or it is damaged, heavily damaged, then we need to utilize it. Then we need to recycle. We need to get back this expensive minerals from it, the resources. And the problem is that we do not have really many disposal plans for such a specific big and heavy batteries as in other parts of the world, especially in Central and Eastern Europe. In Poland, there is no single plant that can dispose this kind of batteries. So this is again a very big and probably profitable in the future way you can develop in our region. And of course, there is another big idea of reusing the battery in its so-called second life, which can be a kind of battery energy storage. And there can be two kinds of energy storages. So the old car battery from the car, I mean here the smaller ones, mostly for hybrid cars, can be used as home energy storages. So in the future, when we are talking about intelligent energy system at home of a conscious user who has electric vehicle, we talk about the solar panels that will provide us the energy. We talk, of course, about the electric car that the user will use, but also we need an energy storage. So mostly the power, the solar power is gathered during the daytime when we are using the car. The car is usually charging at nights, and in the meanwhile, we have to keep the energy somehow. That's why we need the small energy storages, the home energy storages, but then we also need an intelligent system that will manage the energy flow between the solar panels, between the car, between the energy storage, and between the rest of the house, because after all, we also need to use energy in the rest of the house. Then if we go one level higher, we also have the big industrial storages. And this is what companies like Mercedes-Benz do with the old big batteries from big electric vehicles. We are gathering them into big like energy magazines, because after all, although if the battery is old, it has, let's say, only 70% of its original capacity, which means that the range of a car would fall from 500 to say 350 kilometers. That might be not enough for a car, but this is still a hell big battery, which can be still used, for example, as some kind of supply or auxiliary for a big renewable energy plant. And that is also a very, very big area for expanse for investors, and this is also a very good new idea for the business, because also the renewable energy plants have the problem that they do not have how to store the energy, and if they gather too much energy during the time when it's not needed, then what do? They need to store it. And here again, the e-mobility, e-vehicles, electric vehicles, batteries are an answer. Then we have the very, very big world of car sharing services, which may be, or car sharing or shared mobility services, which also may be, and it will be in the future, purely supplied by electric sources of power. Here you have an overview of only some of the most well-known, world well-known brands that are already, let's say, very developed, such as Flixbus or ShareNow or FreeNow. There is SpaceX, but also you have smaller startups like, for example, Volocopter, autonomous electric shared helicopter taxi. I'm sure that Andrzej will comment more on this part of my presentation. But basically, the car sharing business and the e-mobility have a lot in common. And then if we are going to the last part, the hydrogen, the last part I wanted to show you, it's about hydrogen. So not everybody knows that hydrogen car is also an electric car. The only difference is that the energy, the electric energy, is produced inside the car, but it's produced from hydrogen. And already today, not everybody knows that that only in Poland, about 50% of the European demand on hydrogen is produced. The problem is that it's so-called gray hydrogen. It's not clean enough. And if we clean it enough, then Poland becomes one of the biggest hydrogen producers in Europe and one of the key players here. However, again, here we need some kind of investor support. Here we need some kind of partnerships. Here we need perhaps some more R&D that perhaps you could be also interested in. There are also some kind of governmental funds that support the hydrogen development, and only the National Fund of Environment Protection is only now starting about 840 million zloty programs to support the development of hydrogen. This is about $200 million. Even now, although in Poland there is nearly no hydrogen mobility, so it shows that this is one of the top priorities of Poland when it comes to development of future mobility. And that was the let's say overview of the biggest topics we have now when we are talking here about mobility in Central Europe. Mostly, of course, in Poland. I live in Poland and I operate mostly here. That's why we focused on this country. However, I am also very active, for example, in Czech Republic, where I am responsible for the Czech market at Mercedes-Benz. And I can tell you the opportunities, but also the challenges are more or less the same. We will come back to these issues later in my discussion with Andrzej. But now, if I can give Andrzej to you the microphone, and if I can ask you to now go a little bit deeper into what you do in innogy Go.
Thank you very much. Olek, are you going to also switch my slides, or should I switch to my presentation?
Switch on your presentation. You have kind of a screen.
Okay.
Do you see a screen next to your mic?
Yes, I'm doing that.
You have to click the screen.
I'm doing that. And the voice. Yes, I have it. Do you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Perfect. Perfect. So I'm just launching the presentation. So
however,
once again, my name is. Yeah, good. So once again, my name is Andrzej Poplawski. I'm head of electric mobility at innogy Polska, which means that I'm taking care of all the electric mobility initiatives. innogy Go is one of those initiatives. First, I will give you very quick overview who we are, because we are actually innogy, but we are E.ON Group. Last year, there was a merger between those two biggest German electric utility companies. And right now we are E.ON, which means that we are running one of the world's largest investor-owned electric utility service. And this gives us the fantastic opportunity for development of many areas connected to electric mobility too. Innogy is a sub-brand. It's a sub-brand of Innogy Polska, which means that we have a brand that it's particularly designed to provide purely electric car sharing. It was launched in Warsaw last year in April. We operate the fleet of 500 BMW i3s. And at the moment of our launch, we were one of those biggest pure electric car sharing fleets in the world. Right now, we are all still one of those biggest electric car sharing fleets, but we were the third one in terms of the car volumes. What brings us unique is actually connected with this electric mobility, because actually in Poland, we are able to offer our customers the possibility to drive fast lanes, which gives also the opportunity to avoid traffic jam and be more smart and effective in terms of the commuting. And also you have to pay, as a customer, you have to pay for parking fees, because electric vehicles in Poland, they do not pay for the parking at all. So these are the also USPs. In half September, we also launched the trial service in one of the more popular mountain tourist locations in Poland, which is Zakopane. So right now we operate the service in our capital city, Warsaw, and Zakopane, which is the capital city of tourism in the south of Poland. The important thing is that apart from the product itself, which means that you can move yourself with a car from one point to another, is that it's all operated via the application, as mostly all the car sharings, they exactly based on the same features, which means that you just have to register, attach your debit card to your account, and you can book the car and rent it, end up the rental in the same way via the application. From the point of view of operational model, I think it's quite unique in terms of how we do that, because I have never heard of any other car sharing in the world that it's operated like that, and it's just the reason of the situation we faced just before our launch. The first is the fleet, and as I said, it's 500 BMWs, but half of them is owned by us. The second half is financed by Alphabet, which is BMW-owned lease company. The other thing which is quite unique is that all the technology and operations are mostly managed by my team, but outsourced to other companies. For example, the system itself, which is the front end, back end. Front end is the app for the customer, and back end, it's the set of the systems that allow us to manage the whole operation. It's outsourced from the external company, as well as also the daily operations, which is mostly charging the cars. I will give you a little bit more information about that in the charging on the charging area, and also the customer care, which is also outsourced from the external company. And the charging, as I said, charging is probably our crucial competence, because nobody, from my perspective, nobody in the whole world does it in the same way as we do that, because the idea was that we will base on the public infrastructure that will be also developed by us before the launch of our service. And our service was designed to be fueled by the charging network that we are going to develop, to avoid the chicken and egg problem. So the cars were just to be the demand for the charging network, and the charging network was the intention was to build it for the final customers as a public charging network you can just use for your private electric vehicle. Finally, it wasn't that easy from the perspective of how we could build the network. That's why we wanted firstly to launch the service, I mean the car sharing service, and then make the follow-up of the charging network. And actually that's why we're operating the most unique operations of car sharing, electric car sharing services here, because we on a daily basis we charge 500 cars based on the dedicated network of 25 supercharger points, which are supported by 76 already existing public AC charging points owned by us also. but still it requires daily operation made by the external company and management of this operation. And all this management is done by my team, divided into two teams. The first one is marketing and sales, and the second one is operation team. We are supported by also somehow outsourced functions, internally outsourced functions like legal or finance. The most, I would say, interesting thing is that yes, we are actually the rental company, but we are the data-driven rental company, which means that we base on data. As we have all the things managed by the app, by the customer, and all the things also gathered in our systems, we are able to make the trends analysis and predictive analysis based on the app sessions, like millions of app sessions and hundreds, 100,000 registered customers. That gives us the possibility to be better in the service we are offering to our customers. For example, by giving the better offers or the marketing automation or the better performance marketing campaigns. And this is, I would say, modern way of how the car can be rented to the final customer. The most important numbers, actually, apart from the fact that we have over 120,000 registered users, there are nearly 90,000 active users that generated over 650,000 rides and more than 7 million kilometers driven. Very good ratings in Google Play and App Store, and continuously very good results of the Net Promoter Score surveys, always over 55, which is quite unique for this kind of business. Also, we got some awards, like last year we got for the Head of Ministry of Climate, PwC, the Electromobility Leader Award, or yesterday the FE Award for the Performance Marketing Campaign. So it works. And this is also done in some kind of context. I would say from the perspective of the today's discussion, I wanted to give you some more information about how the car sharing market is going to grow, especially Polish market comparing to the global one. I would say we have some potential for the higher growth, because according to the report Car Sharing Global Market Trajectory and Analytics, the market, car sharing market worldwide today is worth $2.4 billion, and it's going to grow to 2027 to 8.4 billion, which makes the compound annual growth rate at the level of nearly 20%. And in Poland, actually, in 2025, from 2029, we are going to grow in the pace of nearly 30%, so of the compound annual growth rate, which means that we are growing faster than the markets worldwide. Also, ING Bank published the survey that they did in 2018, which resulted in the information that 4% of Poles, they already once used the car sharing services, but over 20 of them, they declared that they would like to use the shared services, shared car services in the future, which means that it's actually, and proves that it's excellent potential for the further development of car sharing in Poland. I'm losing my voice, but actually also it was my last slide of my presentation, so I'm giving the voice to Oleg one more time.
Andrzej, thank you very much for sharing your presentation. I think you can now close it so that we are, thank you, we are more visible. You mentioned about a great growth rate in the area of car sharing, and especially, if I understand, in electric car sharing. And as we are now in the investment summit, I cannot ask you any other question than, are you looking for an investor?
Actually, we are in a situation that we are looking for some best scenarios for the further development, because we did something which is of extraordinary value for us, not only for us in Poland but also for the whole group. But we know that to grow, we have to figure out some better ways how we can do that. And looking for some external investor is also the possibility to do it faster and a better way. So yes, we are considering this option heavily too.
So is it more about going outside Poland, or about new cities, or about making it your service more dense where you already are?
All of them. There is a possibility to move forward in terms of the other cities, and as we did with the trial in Zakopane, and it's kind of successful. Also, other countries, they are still under consideration because we've got the infrastructure and the access to this infrastructure as we are ION Group. But the most important, I think, from my perspective, let's say, scenario is to optimize what we can do here, because it can give much more revenues here and much bigger effectiveness by addressing, for example, B2B market, which is underestimated right now in terms of not only electric vehicles, generally speaking, but also car sharing itself. Like, it's not that visible in terms of B2B here in Poland.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say about, let's say, the secret of your business? I mean, would you see your strength here and potential similar companies in other countries? Maybe would you see the strength here in this combining of great electric cars and your own charging infrastructure, or is it more about data collection, or is it more about the processes, or how do you think where is the main strength and what should be developed the most?
Actually, from my perspective, major strength we gathered since last year and during the whole time of our operations is that uniqueness of how we can operate that fleet based on the chargers we have. The first one. The second one is we probably are the biggest expert of how the electric vehicles behave in long term and in big scale. So this is also the experience we it's unique. How to charge it every day and how to operate that based on data to be the most available car sharing vehicles in the capital city of Warsaw. So these are biggest strengths. Also the something that comes from our DNA as innogy, which means that just the knowledge how to install, build, and operate the charger, any any type of the charger, which is DC, AC, whatever. It's additional thing that we know that we are very strong in. So basically, I think that these are those features.
Yeah, well, I have to add here that you're surely the biggest fleet user in whole Poland. I mean, there was the deal you made last year, the 500 cars was like a jump for the whole electric vehicles market in Poland. Now you're definitely the biggest fleet company. I can add here only that maybe that would be wise to also consider bigger maybe variation within your own fleet, because you have probably the second best car brand in the world, but you might have the first one also as part of your fleet.
Sure, actually,
but seriously, sorry.
I just like go on. I wanted to comment a bit because we are open for that, and we already tested other brands in our fleet, and still we can do that. Like, it gives this is also the strength of innogy Go, that we are the platform for testing the electric vehicles for normal people. Like, we were probably in 90% of those people who tried us, or even 95. It was their first drive of electric vehicle. So you know, it has different dimension even in Poland.
And I will come a little bit further even in this topic. And Well, because I was thinking also about the further future. I mean, what you just did last year by coming into the Polish market with your electric car sharing was absolutely unique, was revolutionary, no doubts about it. We are still observing what's happening. You are still learning and observing what's happening with the market, how does it develop. But if you want to stay as a pioneer, you also have to look a couple years in advance. And here also I wanted to ask you about the aspect regarding hydrogen cars. I mean, I've mentioned that already in my presentation. Many people say that hydrogen might be the next revolution in electric vehicles. Poland is a potential big producer of hydrogen, although we definitely need much more investment here. But I know there are a lot of initiatives. There are some public funds. As a Polish Chamber of Commerce, we are in contact with various organizations and institutions that are working on that. The first charging stations are being already installed right now. Of course, there are various problems. The problem is the cost of the R&D. The problem is that there are not so many cars that you can run with hydrogen. Well, for example, Mercedes-Benz has built only two passenger vehicles. So one was basic on the B class a couple years ago, then later the GLC, so car a little bit similar to our first electric EQC. But that doesn't change the fact that there are not so many cars that you can actually use. So we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have too many cars, but that may change in the future. Also, I perceive Poland as a very perspectivous market for that. And do you consider also that as a way of development also for car sharing?
I think so. Like, what I would like to say is that it's very hard to say, as we are in the very early stage of the development of electric mobility, and you are asking me about the hydrogen. It's like we are, as the experts of electric mobility in Poland, we are not able even to be 100% sure how this particular category will develop in the nearest future. So we know that there are some cars planned to be launched, but and all the manufacturers, they are going to invest in this kind of vehicles, but still in Poland we are not sure how quick, in what way it evolves. Like, we are also responsible for the development of the charging infrastructure, but still it's very hard to say how it will be adapted by the market and how the market will respond to that, how people will behave, especially here in Poland, towards the electric vehicles, how they will charge those cars, what will be the usage, and so on. So from the general perspective, I would say that electric vehicles right now, their feature is more, let's say, common for short distances, and hydrogen is I would say is going to fill the gap that happens somewhere outside the city. So maybe it will be the solution for the longer distance transportation also, and the electric mobility as it is right now, it will stay in the cities. So maybe car sharing still electric mostly, and hydrogen we will see. Like, we will see how it will evolve.
Mm-hmm. Coming to the point you've mentioned, charging infrastructure. Well, you as Innogy Go, you are primarily involved into car sharing. However, your mother company, the Innogy, is also a big, well, energetic company. They are also building some public charging points. Some there are in Poland, although not too many. I know they are very now very actively developing in Czech Republic, for example. However, we are still as the whole block of countries, I mean here Eastern Europe, we are still much underdeveloped when it comes to the public charging infrastructure. So as the representative of a company that is developing, what's the problem? How do you think, like, why are we so far away?
So this is exactly the problem we wanted to address with our car sharing. So this is chicken and egg. So nobody wants to buy the car because there is firstly, there is the perception that it's something new and I don't know how to deal with that. The second one, especially I don't know how to deal with that because it's not common. So I don't see those chargers. I don't know how they work, and I'm very familiar with the gasoline the combustion engine cars. So still it's the adoption. This is the first thing. The second thing is that us as the company that is the expert of the electricity, we've got the obligation to build the charging infrastructure because it comes from the act of the electric mobility that is given by the government. The novelty of this act is going to be presented soon. So basically, it's not profitable at this particular moment. Nobody wants to touch it because nobody knows when it is going to be profitable, like the public charging infrastructure itself. And still it's stimulated by the country in the way that it is right now. We will see how it will work. We are a bit afraid of that too, because we will develop the charging infrastructure, the public charging infrastructure. I would say even our operator will do that for the money of their customers, so people in Warsaw. But still, we are sure that for the first 12 months or even 24 months, there will be no demand for this infrastructure. So still, it's from my perspective, it's good that it's stimulated by the country, but it's hard thing for all those players in the market, not only those investors but also customers.
It is, but let's look at that from the other side. So we as Mercedes, we offer a service called Mercedes-Me Charge. This is a like charging card which can be used on any public charging station. So it's like all that we have probably about 3 or 4 biggest charging operators in Poland, including innogy, together with the smaller ones or the developing ones. We have maybe about 10, and currently the problem is that you need a separate card for every. There is separate paying system, but there are also some integrators, including, for example, our service. The problem, however, is that when I look to my system, to my Mercedes-Me Charge card, at available charging points, I do not see all the charging points you have here in Warsaw for the reason of operating innogy Go. So my question, if there is a problem of egg and chicken, you already have the egg, and you do not make it public. Why don't you why are you closing that for audience?
It's not that easy actually, because it has many different grants. The first one is those DC chargers. They are just dedicated for the fleet because they were designed to play this particular role. The second one, the AC chargers, we already have. They are also being developed in the times that it's not that easy to do that right now. We also had some regulations that we have to deal with right now. So it takes time. It has to be compliant with some documentation that you have to provide, and everyone learns how to do that. So for some stations it's easier to do that, and they are already publicly available, and for some station it's much more difficult, and you have to wait, and it takes time. So this is it. It seems to be that easy, but particularly going into details, it always takes time. At the very beginning. This is the privilege of this kind of businesses that are on the early stage of their development.
Yeah, I know. Of course, I understand it's difficult. I just remember the time when there were the first media leaks regarding the new product you're offering, and then firstly there was the leak. Innogy is building a couple dozens of fast charging points in Warsaw. Everybody said, "Yay!" And then a couple of days or weeks, I don't remember later, but it's going to be only for Innogy Go. Oh.
But to be honest, because this gives us, from the investment perspective, even. Because this, as I said, this is our biggest competitive advantage. I mean, the know-how, how to use the chargers in a big scale for the big fleets. I would give you example where we can grow, even having this particular service, but we can grow in some different areas. For example, there is a huge potential in terms of the taxi or ride-hailing businesses that will for sure switch to electric vehicles. But they don't know how to charge them. They need the service. They need the charging network. They need the knowledge how to do that. And for example, what I'm figuring out right now is how to set up the business, additional business that will utilize our chargers for example, this particular perspective. So we could be we could give the offering not only as a car sharing for B2C and B2B customers, but also, for example, we could offer whole fleets with the service of charging for different companies, also the taxi companies or ride-hailing companies.
That is definitely a business case.
Yeah.
However, I'm looking at the clock. We have maybe just time for one last question, a closing one. How do you think? Because as I said, I'm trying here to look, let's say, widely on the e-mobility as the whole big business case in our country, but also in our region. Why do you think it's still so underdeveloped? I'm not saying only now charging infrastructure, but it's clear, especially in Poland, since a couple of years, that well, the target is to go electric. All the public institutions, governments say about it a lot. Then we have theoretically one of the most innovative and hardworking societies regarding to most of the scientific works on that. We have big R&D organizations or centers. We have universities. We have a lot of scientists. We have a lot of students. Some of them, not all know, but some of Polish devices in Poland originated devices take part in space exploration. And however, although that, we are still not really able to develop a lot of, let's say, real local initiatives. Your one is a good example. However, it's still, I would say, well, still you're a part of a bigger international organization. We do not have too many starting here and now in Poland. There are a couple of cool initiatives. For example, you probably know Trigo, the small electric future autonomous car sharing, which is something between car and a scooter. However, it's still in a research and development mode since a couple of years. Until now, not really so many initiatives have happened. We are really hard working on that to make this kind of initiatives really go into business in the Polish Chamber of Commerce. But you as a business, how do you think? What's the main obstacle? Why are we not developing as fast as we want
to? I think it's more connected with also the things you already mentioned. Like we are the society that is quickly adopting novelties, innovations, but still we count. And we like the things that are value for money, and not only on the customer side, but also on the investors and the companies and firms side and business side. So basically, we are looking for things that will give the profitability in the particular time. And I think that we need more initiatives as we did. So we made a bet somehow that okay, somebody has to start, and so sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and we were considering all the scenarios that we can also lose on that, but still I think still that it was perfect timing for that, and we need more of this kind of initiatives. You mentioned Izera or Izera in Polish. We'll see how it's going to be developed, or whether it's going to be developed, but still we need those kind of initiatives. I think one of those initiatives is also the government regulation that we will have to build the charging network. It is the initiative. It gives even the awareness that electric mobility is just in front of you, and it's just not something that everyone talks about, but you don't see it. You will have the chargers all scattered around the city, and that's all. And even if you in 85% you charge at home, and the business is more focused on selling the chargers to your to B2C customers to install it at home, not to earn money on public charging, but still it increases the awareness of this category, and I think we need more of that. And still somebody has to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, as they say, no risk, no strawberries. But I absolutely agree that also when we talk about the public government, then probably we need more actions and less talking. Because of course, it's really great that we hear verbal support for eMobility development, but probably it would be much better if you ask innogy, don't hear, please go and build infrastructure, and you would probably rather like to hear, okay, so we give you, I don't know, some kind of incentives, we help you do it, we help you build it, and please do it if you see a business case, not because you are forced to. I see that our time is up. Yep.
One more thing, and from your side, we also required some additional initiatives, because like even us, when we were looking for the best option for our electric fleet, it was very difficult to find the provider that will give us 500 vehicles produced on this particular market. It's the availability is also the key here. Like as far as I know, people are willing to buy the electric vehicle, but it's hard to find them, because firstly there's a limited number of models, and secondly the availability for this particular market, I mean Poland, among the producers is very limited.
That's absolutely true. I mean, your choice was, in this situation you had, absolutely reasonable. I mean, probably BMW was at the time the only, or maybe one of 2 or 3 producers that were at all capable of producing and supplying such a big fleet of cars. This, however, this point and this part, I believe it is already overcome. I mean, now we have in Poland over 100 available electrified models, including the Mercedes-Benz models itself, or Daimler models itself. We are offering now already 5 different electric models. Next year we have 3 premieres. So I really hope that we will have the opportunity to come back to this discussion also with you in innogy Go. And now maybe closing that part to the audience we have, I wanted to thank you for listening to us. Both me and Andrzej, we will stay a little bit longer on the platform. So if you want, you can chat with us, you can address us directly. You can also get our contact data from organizers of this conference. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us here. It was a great pleasure to talk to you. Yeah, and from my side, hope to see you in the future. If you have any closing words, Andrzej, then go ahead, please.
I would like to thank you also for the invitation here, and the fact that I could talk to you also and have that discussion. Thank you also for the listening us, and hope to see you one more time somewhere.
Somewhere. Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care.